Okay guys, the daily wrap-up video for Tuesday. I'm trying to do a better, more thorough job because we have free trial members in the chat room every day. And so I want to send this video out so people that maybe you were on your free trial and couldn't make it in, or maybe you could only make it for an hour. So I'm trying to recap the day a little better than I used to. Alright, and so MCP, I wanted to share this one. One of our all-stars, Zio, actually Zio, but he's asked me to say Zio for simplicity in the wrap-up videos. Mentioned MCP as an idea over 30. Okay, this was the opening 5-minute candle. See, nice volume. MCP has made really nice moves lately, which is why it was on his radar. Now, I did get a private message questioning the wording of Zio's post, okay, to which I want to reply. And I understand the question. No, I don't think anybody's at fault here, but I actually started taking screenshots so people can see what a call looks like. My calls are made in the announcements or over the microphone, so mine are a little easier, but the all-stars who are in different color, as you can see, Zio, you know, look at the time. It was 9:31. We're talking 1 minute in. Now remember, I spend the first 10 minutes or so building a high volume watch list, a high relative volume stocks, okay? For two reasons. One, they usually give a nice list to draw on later for potential trades. But the second reason is because it keeps me out of trouble. I'm not a big fan of trading the first 5 or 10 minutes, although you can get some really nice moves. Our all-stars aren't encumbered by the idea, you know, or the time taken up to build the high volume list, although some of them do post some. They're also freed up more so than I am to look at trades that could post or could trigger in the first 5 or 10 minutes. So we kind of, I guess, split duties in that regard. And for that reason, you know, the all-stars can focus on early ideas. Mo does it a lot. Zio does it a lot. So anyway, my response to the member that questioned whether or not, you know, this is an actual call, my response is, when I do call stocks early, I mean, man, I'm in a hurry to type it out because I know it could trigger at any second. So Zio types out, watch MCP if it takes out 30. I guarantee you, and I haven't spoken to him about this, but I guarantee you, for him, it was more important to get the idea out so others could profit from it than to word it properly, saying, I'm going to take MCP if it takes out 30. So as a trader, you can read what Zio posts and then make a decision if you like MCP as well. But to me, it was clear, and I know he was in a hurry to post the idea more so than worried about the wording, because I've been in his shoes a million times. All right? So let's go look at it. And then you see the early high volume. If it gets above the 5-minute high, now you could, worst case, stop this below the 5-minute candle, and you're still looking at only about 25 cents risk. So here you go. Boom. Breaks 30, and within 5 minutes it's 31. And within, I don't know, another 5 or another 10 or 15 minutes, it's at 32. And then, you know, went all the way to almost 33. So a great call by Zio, all right? And now you'd look at that if you didn't take that. And I didn't. Remember, I sat it out because I didn't even see the post. I'm trying to build a list, keep myself and conservative traders out of trouble, although I know you can get nice moves like this right off the bat. So total hats off to Zio. Great call. But you might look at this and think, well, nobody would have gotten filled anyway. It happened too fast. Let's look at that. Right there, we've got a member, you know, 9 minutes in, makes 70 cents a share on MCP. Another guy, $1.10 per share, 10 minutes in. Lorenzo giving him basically a thank you. And then Lorenzo getting $1.42 a share, 19 minutes in. So a lot of money made today on that. And then I also want to talk about Kathy. Said, Mike, thanks for the scale-out approach. She finally used it for the first time with MCP. And it's a perfect example. If you happen to catch something, you get a dollar move in 5 minutes, okay? And say you've got, I'll just pick an arbitrary 500 shares. Well, if you sell the whole 500, who's going to scoff at making $500 in 5 minutes? But if you sell 250, okay, and you waited 10 more minutes, you could have made another $250 there on the other half. Okay, so instead of 500, you could have made 750 for the morning, and so on. So it's a great argument. Our MCP is actually a great example of why we teach to scale out. Of course, it's easy for me to say after the fact when I didn't get the trade at all, but I'm certainly happy for this group that did. And then I have one more screenshot I took, and this isn't to make fun of Zio. He deserves accolades for the call, but I don't know why it just did that. See if I can clean that up a little bit. Okay. This is an instructive comment, if you ask me. Made $500 on MCP and feels stupid. The reason I bring that up is because I've said this before in chat probably 1,000 times. The market and trading, you'll never get every dime you could have out of any day ever. Okay, so at the end of every day, you're always going to look back and say, man, even on a great day, you're going to go, well, man, I could have made more. Look what I did wrong here. Look what I did wrong here. There's no way to catch the top ever on every call. So the important thing is to be defensive, protect against the downside, and be happy with the profits that you made there. And scaling out would have helped a little bit there with ZOZO, but the point is, don't ever look back on a day. If you do, you'll never be able to trade. You have to be able to look back and laugh at the money you could have had, but learn to be happy with what you made. Okay, so having said all that, I thought there were some good lessons there. I'm going to go into try to cover all my calls from the day. NIHD, I had on watch, and then when it came down, just because of the daily chart, and then when it came down and then broke through the high of the day, this little flag it put in on fives here. I called this on fives. If you're new or a free trial member, all that means is fives means I'm using 5-minute candles. You can always look right here on any chart I'm projecting. It'll show you the time frame of the candle I'm using. And it means I'm looking to go long the first break of a previous 5-minute candle. So when I post NIHD fives, you look at the chart, you're going to see consecutive lower highs. If it breaks this candle's high, 18.19, I'm in, which it did right here, and my stop goes below this candle's low, 18.11. So 8 cents risk. And really, about 5 minutes later, it went to 18.25, came back to my entry, and I announced in chat that I was killing it flat. The reason for that is because I was looking for it to take out yesterday's high. I was looking for a move through this catalyst too. Didn't happen right away, and I think the market was a little bit weak at the time too. So why not take a flat? Why let it cost me? Let's go over some of my other ideas from the day. Rex, R-E-X-X, called at 1082 with a 1072 stop. This was a nice trade. Okay, Rex looked like this when I called it. It kind of had a little intraday base. See the early volume? That's what caught my attention. And then I watched it kind of flag, and I thought over this little base here, 1082 probably gets me through the high of the day in a nice move. And it did. Pretty quickly to 11, and ultimately closing close to the high of the day, went to 11.20. So almost 40 cents or somewhere around 40-cent move on a dime risk. Not too bad. Okay, LYB, if you noticed, and I don't have that. I had to close the chat room because I had to restart my computer to get things to work, but I can read you what the announcements are. Remember, when I post something, it'll pop up in the announcements feature. You can always go back and click on the announcements tab in chat. And again, I don't have it open, but right next to general chat at the top of the chat, but below the window where we show charts, you'll have an announcements tab. We have general chat, then announcements, and then early high volume stocks. So you can always go back throughout the day and click on announcements and see all the calls that I made. Okay, so these are the ones I'm going over now. The NIHD, the Rex, and now LYB. LYB, why did I call it on fives? Okay, LYB, early volume, nice breakout, and then a clean flag pattern into a rising 20. All right, nice volume here too. So a lot of things lined up here. And remember from the last call, a fives trigger means you'll have consecutive lower highs on fives. I'm looking to go long the first break of a previous fives high. In this case, if it breaks this candle, 44.61, that's my entry. Worst case stop goes below this candle, 44.40. So 21 cents risk. And over the next 10 minutes or so, it went to 44.77. I did sell some in the mid 70s there, and when it came back to my entry, I was back out again. I did just no fooling around. I always play defense. Okay, believe me, I didn't have too much to brag about today as far as huge trades, but the losses were kept to a minimum. Okay, TIE fives. I'm not going to show that because I ended up canceling it. Juniper. All right, Juniper. Strong right out of the gate. Okay, this is what it looked like this morning. I mentioned it in pre-market that it was gapping, that I should probably keep an eye on it. And then also about 1 minute in, if you look in the early volume stocks tab, I posted Juniper as well as one to watch because of the volume. And then one of our all-stars, Big, was stalking Juniper when it looked like this. It was kind of coming sideways into the rising 20. And I went ahead and kind of agreed with Big. I said, yeah, this could break this base and get going. So I went ahead and made an official call, but I want to give a hats off to Big for kind of putting it back on my radar, because I might not have seen it had he not been saying something like, Juniper is really interesting to me. Even though I kind of had it on watch, he kind of, re-sparked my interest in it. Okay, so my call was 22.22 over this base, 22.08 stop, which would have been below that base. Triggered, went back into the base, 2-3 hours, finally makes a move. And we scaled out into this move. I think I sold some here, and then the final third when it came back down below the 20. So Juniper was a nice one. It wasn't huge, but the risk reward is certainly pretty good. And then I did have a call that didn't work, was WFT. WFT looked like a PFPD, potential final push down, grinding lower, and then a big push here on volume. And then it started a base, so I called it over this base, 1612, gave a verbal ID on it. I don't think I used the announcements feature. Worst case stop, 1604. So 8 cents risk. I didn't mind that, but it did stop me out finally right there. And then just got weird, okay? But anyway, so there's one WFT that did not work. And now I want to give a few hats off to a couple members too, okay? BTU, Michael N. Mentioned BTU on 5s early. Now, I didn't just go back and arbitrarily pick posts that I saw after the fact. The only reason I'm sharing this with you is because when Michael N. Mentioned BTU, I went ahead, I can't remember, I think I put it on the projector, but even if not, I know I passed the word along that I did like BTU on 5s, okay? And BTU, again, on 5s is the first break of a previous 5s high. 30.26 would have been the entry, worst case stop 30.07, and from 30.26 over the next 10 or 15 minutes to 30.56, a nice 1% move there over 15 minutes. So hats off to Michael N. AIG, sort of hats off to me. I mentioned AIG after the gap up, and this was just over the microphone. I said if anyone's interested, AIG is trying to turn on 5s here, which had a high, a lower high, and it had a green candle even with this candle when I mentioned it. Don't know to this day or to this hour if anyone took it, but it would have been over this candle high as a long. And again, it was just a mention. I didn't take it myself, 29.37, because it would have been about 10 minutes in with a low of day stop, and went all the way up a buck from there. So again, I never did see if anyone I didn't get any private messages thanking me for AIG, so for all I know, nobody got it. But I did mention the idea this morning. VLO, let's see. Oh yeah, VLO, I didn't want to leave out this one either. VLO on this 5 setup, okay? VLO strong out of the gate, bounced on 5, failed, and then Big and I started watching this one on 5s. Called it on 5, 27.51 if it broke that candle. Worst case stop, 27.37. And I was back out 5 minutes later. That was another flat because the market was weak and I just didn't want to hang on. But VLO ended up, would have stopped out, by the way, right here and then gone later. And I think some of you were watching VLO on 15s as well, which would have worked. But if you notice, by being defensive, if they're not working right away, there's nothing wrong with just getting back out. Also, hats off to Luis because he pointed out POT when it looked like this. And I think I put this one on the projector and said POT looks like a potential final push down. So again, I'm not picking arbitrary posts, but I'm going back and saying these are things that I was able to pass along to the group. Grinding lower, and then you get that shape change on better volume. The way to play these PFPDs is a break of this candle's high, first break of a 5-minute candle's high, which would have been 46.95 with a low of day stop, and from 46.95 it went to like 47.20 something. Now that's not huge, but it's still a tradable, profitable event there. So hats off to Luis for that. And even Mechanic in there mentioned glue on 30s, to which I passed along to the group. Glue was very strong the other day. And then a couple days down in a row, and Mechanic asked me what I thought of glue on 30s. And it looked like this at the time. I said, yeah, sometimes these recently strong stocks can give you an obscure 30s entry, which means, I'll try to zoom in, the first break of a previous 30-minute candle's high. You got a nice little hammer here, which would have been right there. And that would have been a nice trade too. Again, I didn't take that or call it. I just passed it along to the group. And to this moment, don't know if anybody took it, but these are things that made it into my notes because they were good ideas by some members, and even if they weren't the all-stars that stand out with a different color and a chime, these are ones that I'm mentioning that I did pass along to the group. And I think that's it, man. This video, I'm long-winded, 14 minutes. So looking over my notes, I think that's about it. Free trial members or newer members, if there's anything I said in the video you don't understand or anything you have questions about, feel free to email me, gsp@greatstockpicks.com. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys later.